Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trilokyam Sacharacharam Atpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata cha Pita Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome back, everyone. Our first class of the new year. And I think we are on Shloka 127. Is that correct, Mark?
Yes, that's right.
So a little context of where we were and where we're headed. So in this section of Vivekachudamani, Shankara has given us two meditative approaches. We've spent quite a bit of time on the via negativa, the way of negation. Neti, neti, not this, not this. So we examine the stula sharira, the meat lobe. I am not the body. We examine the sukshma sharira, the subtle body, feelings, thoughts. And he spent quite a bit of time examining the karta, the agent, the chit chaya, the shadow self, the transient false self, jiva bhavana, when I feel like a person. I'm not any of that. And then the kara, the sharira, the causal body, the vasanas, the proclivities, which in their pure state we experience as deep sleep. So we've had a few verses now of assertive meditative verses, what the self is. So just in review, Ganesh, would you read verses 125 and 126, just the English, to catch us up, and then we'll go into 127.
Something there is, which is the absolute entity, the eternal substratum for the very awareness for the very awareness of ego. It is a witness of the three states, and it is distinct from all the five sheets. 126. That which knows everything that happens in the waking, dream, and deep sleep states. That which is aware of the presence or absence of the mind and its functions. That which is the essence behind the ego. That is this.
Yes, the self. So, any thoughts or questions on what we've covered in these assertive verses? Koham, who am I? All right, 127, please.
Yav pashyati swayam sarvam, yam na pashyati kaschana, yaschetayati buddhyati, atadyam chetyat chetayatyayam. That which sees all, but which no one can see. That which illumines the intellect, etc., but which they cannot illumine. That is this.
So, what this verse wants us to focus on is the doubt that many of us have when I think I'm going to have an experience of the self. I don't have it now. I'm going to meditate or do pranayama, and then pretty soon something's going to show up. That's the self. And this verse says, no. The self is not something that is cognized as an object. The self is that which is the knower of all phenomena. But itself is never known as an object. Why is this important? So someone goes to Burning Man and drops ecstasy and, oh, I just feel one with everything. And they come back and say, oh, I think I had an experience of the self, but it's gone. No, it's not like that. So let's start with a more fundamental worldly kind of experience. My eyeballs are that by which I see various objects. But nobody has seen their own eyes. Oh, I've never seen my eyes, therefore I don't have any eyes, I don't see. No. You see. Proof of your eyes is that you see. So the question is, when are you ever not you? We must start with our direct experience. What is a huge trap is people will sit down in study groups and talking about it with their friends and reading books, and they read things about the self as if it were something external. What are your ideas about the self? These are my ideas about the self, as if it's something external like French language or nuclear physics, something I can know. That's not the way it works. We must start with our direct experience. Who sees the phone? I do. That's yourself. You're not going to get another self. Well, isn't it good? Are I going to realize Paramatman, that wormy little crummy me? No. It's not like you are going to go someplace. Right now, Your very experience of I is it. I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. My problem is adhyasa. Adhyasa means superimposition in my stupid mind. I superimpose onto that direct experience all sorts of deeply rooted ideas about the self. Bijavasana, the seed attachment identification is, I think, on my body. Even though my direct experience is my body's an object of awareness. I like to tell the story of the fellow who carried around this great big huge clay pot. Why are you carrying a big clay pot, Jim? That's myself. Leave me alone. You're not a pot. You're carrying the pot. Shut up. I'm a pot. My pot is so heavy. You're not a pot. Put the pot down. No, it's me. I do the same thing with the body. I think I'm my body. When my direct experience is the body is an object of perception. Take a deep breath. Do you not know the breath in the body? The knower is distinct from the known. So who are you? In a quiet mind, with the attention introverted, letting go of all external perceptions and identification. Go home. Who am I? Then that phony self falls, it drops, because it's like a shadow. Something there is that remains. Vast and empty like the sky. Never known as an object, yet always known as me. How do you know you were you? You do not see, hear, taste, touch, smell, emote, or think yourself. Yet you know you were you. What is the nature of you? In the mind. All those superimpositions thin with it. Next verse.
Yena vishvamidam vyaptam yam na vyapnoti kinchana abharupamidam sarvam yam bhantam anubhatyayam. That by which this universe is pervaded, but which is not pervaded by anything, which when it shines, the entire universe shines as its reflection. That is this.
Yes. Now, in Vedanta, we address three questions. Who am I? What is this world and how has it come about? Here, Shankar is talking about this second question. what is this world? Here he says the self-consciousness pervades it, but nothing superior to the self pervades the self. This becomes easy to understand if we go to the dream state. Your individual mind pervades the dream. In the dream state, first there is an avarana shakti, a veiling power, called deep sleep. Then there's a vikshepa shakti. My mind projects the dream, and I have a dream body with a dream ego identified with it. That dream body is the locus of perception where I look out at the dream world with its people, places, things, and conditions. And then inside I have reactions to that world. Oh, this is such a wonderful thing, or oh, that's so scary. But my mind pervades it all. In fact, it's all in my mind. In fact, it is my mind itself appearing as the dream. I woke up this morning and water was pouring out of my ear. I dreamt I was swimming in the ocean. Did the ocean pervade my mind? The dream state, my mind pervades the dream. Nothing in the dream touches me. Likewise, all this is like a dream, meaning it is nothing but consciousness appearing as name in Gita, in an early chapter, I think it's the fourth, Krishna says, all this is strung on me like gems on a thread, Mani Sutre. Oh, that's really cool. The self is in me, the self is in you, etc. But then later on, he contradicts himself. He says, well, actually, I am not in them. They are in me. And then he gets more outrageous. He says, actually, they're not even really in me. So if I dream I'm horseback riding, I do not wake up in the morning in bed with a horse. It's not real. Brahma Satyam Jagat Nitya. Way back in the early description of discrimination, Brahman alone is real. The phenomenal world, meaning the names and forms, are just holograms. Now, what about myself? Vijnana Gana, a homogeneous, dense mass of sentience itself. Seems like it's inside or behind, but actually it's in front, it's behind, it's above, it's below, it's inside, it's outside, it's everywhere. It is without dimension and pervading all dimensions. Now, this is not just philosophy. Some of you have begun to have the desire arise within you to do long periods of meditative practice. What will happen if you do this? As the mind thins out, the world will thin out. It'll become very ephemeral, very transparent. It's almost like you can stick your hand through the whole thing. Sounds silly because your hand's part of that too. But we see that this whole world that I took so seriously is so it's nothing but consciousness appearing as naked. Don't believe me? Go there, find out. Next verse.
Yasya sannidhimatrena tehendriyamanoधियः विषयेषु स्यखीयेषु vartante prarita iva, that by whose very presence the body and the sense organs, the mind and the intellect, perform their respective functions like a team of servants prompted by their master.
So it's not one of my favorite Shankara images, because you got to think of a lord in his palace or a king, and he's giving orders to everybody to do this, that, and the other thing. The self doesn't give orders. The self does nothing. A modern metaphor, which I think works better, is electricity and appliances. The bulb by itself cannot shine, the fan by itself cannot turn, the stereo by itself cannot sing. Electricity is not light, motion, or sound. But when there is electricity contact, electric yoga, then the light bulb shines, the fan moves, the stereo sings. This asparsha yoga is what it's called in Gita. Asparsha means untouched, yoga means joy. So the body, mind, intellect, the senses, all of them are jada, they're inert. But because of the contact of the cell, body moves, the senses perceive, the emotions feel, the intellect thinks. human being seems to be aware and conscious. The consciousness of self is what's illuminating. Next verse.
Ahankaradi Vihayascha Sukhadayah Vedyante Ghatavadyena Nityabodha Swarupina. That because of which everything, the ego, the body, the sense objects and their pleasures, etc., are known as clearly as a jar, is of the nature of eternal knowledge.
Yes. So I look at the coffee table. I know the coffee table. I'm not a coffee table. Take a deep breath. Feel the breath in the body. I know the breath in the body. I know the body the same way I know a coffee table, or Shankar would say a jar. I know my feelings, joy and sorrow. Joy doesn't know sorrow. Sorrow doesn't know joy. I know them both. Whatever the thoughts are. 2 + 2 is equal to 4. Mary had a little lamb. I know these thoughts. Even the ego. I can watch it rise and fall. Anybody get triggered or identified this week? Did you not know it though?
Yes.
Yes. It was vivid and painful, right?
Yes.
You knew it so vividly.
Yeah.
You are not the ego. Do you see that?
Yes.
You know it like you know a jar. Now, if the jar is greasy and dirty, are you a jar? If you put the jar in the dishwasher and it comes out shiny and clean, are you a jar?
No.
Yeah. This is why Swamiji used to say the way to heal the mind is to get out of the mind. Get out. So much of yoga, so much of our practice really goes back to the first 2 of the qualifications of a fit student. Remember way back when? Viveka, that firm conviction in the intellect that Brahman alone, myself, the self alone is real. The phenomenal world is nitya, illusion, unreal, impermanent, not self. Is known as discrimination, viveka. Vairagya, that desire to give up attachment to all enjoyments gained through the senses, to give up identification with any form of self, from body up to and including Brahma, the creator. I mean, that's the work. That's the work. This is why I like to tell people, don't try to be a spiritual person. It's far too burdensome. Instead, know you are Brahman. It's so much easier. You don't have to prove anything, accomplish anything, go any place, achieve anything. A phrase you hear around now in the consciousness circles is drop the rock. Let it go. Next verse.
I think on the previous verse, I think it's the translation. I don't think Shankara actually says anything about servants and masters in that verse. I think all he's saying is like they are inspired by consciousness. Mind, the body, the sense organs, and the intellect are inspired to perform their actions by consciousness, is what I think it's saying.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
This is Ganesh has been studying Sanskrit, so he can be a much better translator sometimes. That's good to know.
Sometimes is the key word there.
Pardon me?
Sometimes is the key word there. Sometimes I can be a translator.
Okay. But the whole
that
idea is to be clear, the self is never an agent. The self is the illuminator, but the self is the empowerer. It is because of the presence of the self that the upadis act. All right, next verse.
Eshontaraatma purushah purano nirantarakhanda sukhanubhuti sadaika rupa pratibodhamatro yene shita vagasavascharanti. This great truth is the innermost self, the ancient Purusha, whose essential nature is the constant experience of infinite bliss, which is ever the same. Yet, it constantly gets reflected through different mental modifications, and commanded by it, the sense organs and the pranas perform their functions.
Yeah. So, this self, this Atman, which is Brahman, is also the ancient Purusha that is extolled in the Vedic literature. In Gita, he will call himself Purushottama, Uttama Purusha. Supreme spirit. It's hard to translate. Purusha just means person, by the way. But it is that which is pure existence, pure sentience, chit. Ananda, bliss absolute. Wait a minute. If the self is a changeless reality and I'm experiencing the self all the time, how come I'm not blissing out all the time? So obviously, my idea of Ananda cannot be what it is, because the self is changeless. It does not rise and fall, come and go. So my suggestion is, let's start by translating Ananda as no sorrow reaches there. Physical pain gets to my body. Emotional upset gets to my mind. Doubt and confusion get to my intellect. But I am the still point. Nothing gets to me. There. It's completely silent. Completely still. Well, then why do we call it Ananda? Because when the mind lets go of its agitation and comes home to itself, the mind becomes blissful. When the stormy waves are pacified, they merge into the ocean. You can't even say there's a relationship anymore between the waves and the ocean. Language falls short. We can say the self is the fountainhead of all happiness. It's the source of all joy. The woman of realization has Atmaramana. She can revel in the self. The man of wisdom has the taste, the Brahmananda rasa, the juice, the bliss of Brahman. But Ananda is not a feeling. Feeling happens in my mind. Let's go. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
अत्रैव सत्त्वात्मनि दिगुहायां मव्याकृताकाश उषत्प्रकाशः आकाश उच्चै रविवत् प्रकाशे स्वतेजसा विश्वमिदं प्रकाशयन्. In this very body, in a mind full of sattva, in the secret cave of the intellect, in the atmosphere of the unmanifest, the Atman of captivating glory shines like the sun, high in the sky, illumining this universe by its very effulgence.
Oh, beautiful poetry and beautifully sung. So we don't wait until we die. In this very body, right here, right now. Let's parse the actual phrase by phrase. So he starts off in this very body. What's the next line, please?
In a mind full of sattva.
Yeah. So, meaning I have been able to remove all the tamas, all the rajas. So a pure mind here, a sattvic mind, doesn't mean I have good thoughts as opposed to bad thoughts. It means I have fewer thoughts. And pure sattva, those moments when I have no thoughts. Next idea. The cave of the intellect.
In the secret cave of the intellect, yeah.
Yes. So this metaphor of caves. So if you've got a bear cave, the bear is content, the cave is context. It's a lion cave, lion is content, cave is context. It's a bat cave, bats are content, cave is context. In the cave of the intellect, when my intellect has slowed enough that I can see a thought arise out of silence. What is the context of my thoughts? The awareness in which all rises. Next idea.
In the atmosphere of the unmanifest.
Here we don't mean deep sleep. That's not the avyakta we're talking about. In the atmosphere where no thing is. And when the mind is the world is the mind. Stop the mind. And the world stops. Swamiji used to say, when the last thought is thoughted, before the next thought starts thoughting, where nothing is manifest. The attentive faculty turned within. Next idea.
The Atman of captivating glory shines like the sun high in the sky, illumining this universe.
Then I see, oh, there's nobody there. There's no person. Chid Akasha, the space of pure awareness. When the mind merges with that, it becomes stupefied, thunders to a stop. Words cannot describe it, but Shankara gets pretty close. It's glorious, glorious poetry. The whole essence, those moments of samadhi, all contained as one beautiful poetic verse. Shankara at his best. Don't go looking for a sun. I want to see the glorious sun in there. No. This is metaphor. It's like when the day has been overcast and cloudy, and all of a sudden the rains, the sun appears, shining on everything. So also, when the mind stops, it's avyapradesham, it's untalkaboutable in the end. Next verse.
ज्ञाता मनोहं कृतिविक्रियाणां देहेन्द्रियप्राण कृतक्रियाणाम् अयोग्नि भक्तान्नुवर्तमानो न चेष्टतेनो विकरोति किंचन. The knower of the modifications of the mind and the ego and the activities of the body, the sense organs and the pranas, which apparently take their forms like the fire in a ball of iron, is the self which neither acts nor changes in the least.
So, because of consciousness, the senses perceive, the body moves, the emotions feel, the intellect thinks, and the karta, the agent, has the sense of, I am going to go do the dishes. I came up with a new image yesterday or the day before, I can't remember. Way back in the 1960s, they were having the early experiments with fiber optics. My dad was in the precision machine parts construction stuff. And he brought home, I think it was called lucite. And it was a shaped tube of plastic. And if you took a flashlight and you shined it at one end of the tube, the light would come out over here. It was the weirdest thing in the world. The light would follow the shape of the tube, wouldn't escape the tube. I mean, you looked at the tube, it kind of glowed. But at the end, it would pop out and shine. And someone was saying the last class that that's the whole science of fiber optics that we have now is based on that stuff. I haven't thought of this in 60 years. But it's like that. The body, mind, intellect is like the tube of lucite. It does not shine on its own. But when consciousness illumines it, I see Wendy on the couch. I hear the traffic sounds. I can smell the incense. I can feel my pulse. All this equipment has the capacity of knowledge. Just like flashlight shining in the lucite tube is never touched or affected. So also, I never changes. Now there's a practice implied here. Through the day, especially if I find that I've reacted, stop for a moment. Turn the mind within. Notice the knower. Am I still witnessing consciousness? Have I been touched or affected by this drama? No. Nothing ever touches me. But we have to prove it to ourselves. Doesn't do any good just to hear it from the teacher and read it in the scripture. I have to prove it to myself. This largely is a practice we don't do just in our meditation seat. We do it as we move through the day. Next verse.
न जायते न म्रियते न वर्धते न क्षीयते नो विकरोति नित्यात् विलीयमानोऽपि वपुष्यमुष्मिन्न लीयते कुम्भ इवाम्बरं स्वयम्. Neither it is born nor does it die, neither does it grow nor does it decay. Being eternal, it does not undergo any change. Even when this body is destroyed, it does not cease to exist. It is like the space in the jar that is broken. It is independent of the jar.
Yes. When were you born? Oh, I was born in 1948. No. The body came into existence then. You are birthless, changeless, deathless. There's a very famous Zen koan. What was your face before your mother's birth? And just as I was suggesting after the last verse, through your day, stop, keep checking out. Have I changed, or am I still just the space of your awareness? Well, I don't remember before I was born. Dude, you don't remember 10 years ago. Memory is no proof of prior existence. And in fact, your body has died many times. Go look at a photo of yourself when you were 18 or 19. Boy, I was a hottie. Where did that body go? It's dead. But did you cease to exist for a moment? I tell you, even dying is completely safe. But I don't feel it, Jim. Well, that doesn't change what's real. Just like when you have a nightmare, to the dreamer, it seems so real. It really seems like I'm going to drive off the cliff. But even though it seems real, You were never really in any danger at all. I'm so frightened. I get that. But it's just a bad dream. In reality, you're safe. And this is why Krishna is able to say in the second chapter, 11th verse, you grieve for whom you should not grieve, though you speak words of wisdom, meaning you've got a lot of good intellectual ideas. The wise grieve neither for the living nor the dead. Only teaching for the very wise. Now, we don't go up to ordinary people and say, oh, you're not wise if you grieve the death of your partner or your mother or something like that. No, we meet people where they're at. But you know, if the self in you is birthless and changeless and deathless, the self in everyone is birthless, changeless, and deathless, whether they realize it or not. Next verse.
Prakriti Vikriti Bhinna Shuddha Bodha Swabhavaha Sada Didadam Vesham Sadidam Ashesham Bhasayan Nirvisheshaha Vilasati Paramatma Jagridadishvastha Jagridadishvasthaha Vaham Vahamaham sakshat sakshi rupena budhe. Different from Prakriti and its modifications is the supreme self of the nature of pure knowledge. It is absolute and directly manifests the entire gross and subtle universe as the very essence behind the steady sense of egoism. It manifests itself as the witness of the intellect, the determining faculty in man.
So let's break this one down. First idea again, please.
Different from Prakriti and its modifications.
So Prakriti means nature, the stuff of which the natural world is made. All the objects, all the emotions, all the thoughts, the body, the mind, the intellect, all the vasanas. Maya itself, all of that is Prakriti. But the self is different from it. Stands apart. Next idea.
Of the nature of pure knowledge.
It is chit. It is consciousness. It is awareness. It is knowing. When we say pure knowledge, it doesn't mean a whole bunch of facts. You are a conscious, sentient being. You are not an it, you're a who. God is alive. Magic is afoot. Old Buffy St. Marie song. The self is alive. Sentience itself. Pure consciousness. So present, so here. Not inert. It has bhava, being. It has sat, existence. It has chit, sentience. Next idea.
It is absolute. Yeah, it's absolute.
Yes. Meaning there's nothing beyond it. There's nothing beside it. There's not consciousness plus stuff. It never moves. It never changes. The term we've been using in Panchadashi, kutastha, absolutely established and still. Next idea.
Directly manifests the entire gross and subtle universe.
Yet, this consciousness has as its inherent power its Maya Shakti, the capacity to have this entire universe show up. Best worldly example I've come up with is, I'm not going to get it out tonight, but if I get out the crystal ball, which is made of quartz, it's rock, and then I take the little prayer stone, which is also rock, except it's granite. Granite rock has no capacity to have images reflected. But the quartz is also stone. If I hold it up, you see images upside down in it. Are the images in it? Well, kind of yes and kind of no. They appear in it, but they're not really in there. It is the stone itself that appears as the reflected image. It is the nature of spatika to do that. It's the nature of a mirror to reflect images. Are there really images in the mirror? Wendy goes into the bathroom, looks at herself in the mirror. I'm going to go in after. No. It's just a mirror. So, sarvam kalvidam brahma. All this is verily Brahman. But it is the nature of consciousness to have this entire universe manifest with it. Next idea.
The very essence behind the steady sense of egoism.
So, God pervades the creation. Your butt's in the creation, which means God pervades you. What about you is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, all pervading, divine, sacred, Body's always changing. Mind is always changing. Intellect is always changing. Oh, but I never changes. Omniscient. Whenever something is known, it is I that knows it. Omnipresent. Oh, I got on a plane, I went to Argentina, and I disappeared somewhere over Brazil. No, you are everywhere. And omnipotent. All the powers of the universe are there. Doesn't mean your ego has all the powers of the universe. Next verse or next idea. Do we have another idea on it?
It manifests itself as the witness of the intellect, the determining faculty in man.
So when mind is thoughting, the intellect is functioning, the self manifests as the awareness of the thoughts, the witness. Now, in the beginning, we tell people take up the practice of Sakshi Bhava, the attitude or the feeling that you're the witness. Actually, you always are the witness. What we're asking you to do is notice that you're always the witness. Did you get that?
Yes.
You are always the untouched witness of all phenomena. You do not have states of consciousness. You have states of mind which are fundamentally inert. You are the conscious principle that illuminates various states of mind. The witness never undergoes a change. Don't believe me? Look and check it out. Next idea.
That's the end of the verse, Jim.
Okay, I think this is a good place to stop. So what verse are we on for next week?
136.
136. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.